doing well today. Wrestlers, I will see you in a little bit. So, first off, we got today's warm up. So, this is also a markup problem like we worked on last week. So, a store sells iPads and buys them from a manufacturer at a wholesale price of $120. The store's markup is 250%. What is the retail price? So, as you notice right away, okay, it is a percent problem. So I have my price, $120, and my 250%. So go ahead and solve this one like normal. Start with your percent. All right, so my percent is 250. And like all percents, that goes over 100. Sorry about the bad handwriting. I'm doing this without a mouse. And 250 divided by 100 equals 2 and 5 tenths. And just like any percent problem we do, we know we always multiply this decimal by the cost of the item, which is $120 in this case. And that equals 300. And we know that is $300, so I can label it with my money symbol. Now, because this is a markup problem, real quick, think to yourself, what does markup mean? Hopefully you said markup means add, because it does. It means it's how much they're going to charge on top of the price. So we know if the cost is $120 and they mark up $300, we simply just add the two. So $300 plus $120 gives us a total of 0, 2, and 3 plus 1 is 4. So a total of $420. Go ahead, take a couple minutes, make sure you have all that written down on your warm-up. Okay, the substitute does have new warm-ups in her folder. So if she did not hand them out, reminder they are in a folder that's labeled class 910. All right, let's go ahead to problem 2. Clear this off. A store buys guitars from a manufacturer at a wholesale price of $38. The store's markup is 85%. What is the retail price? Go ahead, take a few minutes. Again, this is a typical percent problem. So I have $38 and 85%. Go ahead and solve it like normal. All right, so in this case, my percent is 85. So we know we take 85 over 100, which gives me 0 and 85 hundredths. Now, because this is a percent problem, just like any other problem, we simply multiply it by our cost, which in this case, we know it's $38. So 0 and 85 hundredths times $38 is 32 and 3 tenths. Now, hopefully notice that this is money, so it does get a dollar symbol. And because it is 3 tenths, remember, we have to add another 0 because money needs 2 digits. So remember, that represents the markup. And like the problem before, markup means add. So I'm going to add that to our original price, which is $38. Notice how I line up the dollars, okay, in the same spots. And then in order to get decimals lined up, I can just add 2 zeros. So let's go ahead and add it. 0 plus 0 is 0. 3 plus 0 is 3. My decimal comes straight down. 8 plus 2 is 10. So 0 comes down, 1 comes up. And 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So this one, the guitars actually cost $70.30. Go ahead, take a couple minutes, make sure you have all that written down for today's warm-up. All right, go ahead and switch over to the bell ringer. Again, if the substitute teacher did not find the bell ringers, please remind them that it is in the folder that's labeled Math 910. So you'll notice today's bell ringers, these are a lot different. These ones are adding and subtracting integers, which are essentially just whole numbers. So we're going to have a whole different set of rules for each of these problems. And since it's over video, I'm not there in person, I'm going to kind of go over the rule for each problem, and then we'll have you solve them. So the first one, let's look at the two signs. I have -8 and -1. So the first question we're going to ask, are they the same sign or are they different signs? In this case, we should be able to notice that they are both the same signs. They're both negative. So anytime we add numbers and they're the same sign, we simply add the number and keep the sign. So negative, negative, they're the same sign, so I keep the negative sign. And then I add the numbers. And 8 plus 1 is 9. So my answer is simply -9. So we start with number 2. What are the signs? Well, for number 2, I have negative and I have positive. Are these the same signs? No, they're not. They're different signs. So when we add numbers with different signs, we have a rule where we subtract the numbers and keep the sign of the bigger number. So let's subtract them. 9 minus 1 is 8. Then we keep the sign of the bigger number. What number is bigger, 1 or 9? Well, 9 is bigger. And what sign is 9? 9 is positive. So my answer is +8. And I don't need to put the plus symbol in front of it. Okay, I just did to show you that the signs match, but it is +8. Now, number 3, we should notice right away that this is a subtraction problem. Now, our rule for subtraction is called keep, change, change. And we start with the K, which goes under the first number. That is keep. Well, my number is 3, so I keep 3. The C stands for change, and that goes under the subtraction sign. And what change means is we simply change it from subtraction to addition. And then my third C, because remember, it's keep, change, change, I change the sign of the last number. In this case, it is -11. So I change the negative sign to positive, and I'm left with +11. Now I solve it like an addition problem. Well, I have positive and positive, so I keep the positive sign. And again, I don't need to write the positive sign, but I keep the positive sign. And 3 plus 11 is 14. And I know these are a lot of rules, and we will go slower when I get back tomorrow, but this is a good way to start it. So let's look at number 4. Okay, it's a subtraction problem, which means I have keep, change, change. So keep is under -1, so that means I keep -1. The change is under subtraction, so I change subtraction to addition. And then the change is under -0. Well, I change it to the opposite sign, so the opposite of negative is positive, so I change it to +0. Now let's look at my problem. I have an addition problem. Now let's look at the signs. I have a negative sign and a positive sign. So when they are different signs, I subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. So let's subtract first. 1 minus 0 is 1. And what's bigger, 0 or 1? Well, 1 is bigger. So I keep the sign of the 1, which is negative. So -1. And number 5, I am adding this time. So let's look at our signs. We have -1 and +7. So they are different signs. So different signs we subtract. So 7 minus 1 is 6. Then we keep the sign of the bigger number. Well, what's bigger, -1 or 7? Well, we know 7's bigger and 7's positive, so I keep the positive sign. And again, I know I went through that fast and it is a lot, but make sure you have that written down and we'll go slower and we'll practice each one more in depth tomorrow. All right. And again, if you don't have that written down, just pause the video. Okay, I'm going to jump over to our lesson 7 practice problems. So right now, take a couple minutes, flip over to your lesson 7 practice problems. All right, and if you don't have your lesson 7 practice problems up yet, just simply pause the video and then go ahead and just replay it when you're ready to go. So we're just going to do 3 problems from these. So number 1, a bakery used 25% more butter this month than last month. If the bakery used 240 kilograms of butter last month, how much did it use this month? So let's talk about last month. So it says last month they used 240 kilograms. Well, that is my starting point. So I'm starting with 240 kilograms, and the abbreviation for kilograms is kg. So 240 kilograms of butter. And actually, I forgot to start with this. So hopefully you all started with this. But this is a proportion problem. So remember, line equals line. So I'm starting with 240 kilograms. So take a couple minutes, think to yourself, what percent do I start with? If you said 100%, nice job. Because remember, our original and our starting point is always 100%. Now I have 240 kilograms and 100%. So I need to think about what else does this problem give me? Well, it says right here I used 25% more butter this month. Well, 25% more than what? So remember, we always start with 100%. And if it says 25% more, we know that more means addition. So 100 plus 25 is 125%. Now, where would that go on my proportion? Am I going to put 125% on the top or the bottom? Remember, our labels have to match. So if I have percent on the bottom, percent has to stay on the bottom. All right, go ahead. Solve this proportion by using the fish method. Remember the fish method, I always multiply first. So 125 times 240 divided by my next number, which is 100 in this case, and it points to my answer, which is 300. And because this is on top, I look at my label. Kilograms is on top here, so kilograms is on top here. All right, number 2. Again, if you didn't finish writing down number 1, simply just pause the video and write it down. So last week, the price of oranges at the farmer's market was $1.75 per pound. Well, that sounds like my starting point. So I know I have $1.75, and I can do P for pound. Okay, and because that's my starting point, what percent does it give? And if you said 100% again, you are correct because our starting point is always 100%. Now it says this week, the price decreased by 20%. So think to yourself, what does the word decrease mean? And the word decrease does mean it goes down in price. So remember, I always start with 100%. And if it says I decrease 20, that means I go down, so I subtract 20. And 100 minus 20 is 80. So remember, this is 80%, so where's that going to go, on the top or the bottom? Okay, and as you know, percent is on bottom, percent stays on bottom. All right, go ahead, solve this proportion. And as you know, for proportions, we multiply first. So it's 80 times $1.75 divided by my starting point, which is 100. And in this case, it equals 1 4/10. But let's look here. My label's money, right? So I can put a dollar symbol here. And because it's money, I need 2 digits. So I need to add a 0 at the end. So I have $1.40 P, which stands for per pound. So I can put it there. And that makes sense, right? If we started at $1.75 and the price decreased, it makes sense that my next price is lower. So again, make sure you have this written down. Pause the video if you need to. All right, number 3. Noah thinks the answers to these questions will be the same. Do you agree with him? Explain your reasoning. So the first part. This year, a herd of bison had a 10% increase in population. If there were 550 bison in the herd last year, how many are in it this year? So let's start with last year. How many bison did I have? 550. And if that is my starting point, we know that gets 100%. I should put 550 bison. So it is a proportion, so line equals line. Now it says this year there was a 10% increase. So as we know, an increase means it's getting bigger. So that means add in math. So I always start with 100%. I increase 10%. And 100 plus 10 gives me 110. So 110%, and if percent's on bottom, percent is going to stay on bottom. So go ahead, solve this proportion. So I multiply first, then I divide, and I get 605 bison. And that's a 10% increase, so it does make sense that my number is getting bigger. So go ahead, write that down, and I'm going to clear it off on my screen, and then we're going to solve the next part to it. But you need to make sure you have that down so we can compare our answers. All right, this year, another herd of bison had a 10% decrease in population. If there are 550 bison in the herd this year, how many were there last year? So this one is kind of tricky. This one is saying there's 550 bison this year. And it says this year there was a 10% decrease in population. So this year there's a 10% decrease. So we know decrease in math means subtract. So I start with 100, subtract 10% from my decrease, and that gives me 90%. So this one, it says, because it says this year, then it also says this year there was a decrease, I had to take 100 minus 10 to get 90%. Now, this is comparing it to last year, and last year was the starting point. So because last year was the starting point, the percent for last year is 100. So go ahead, solve this proportion. So we take 100, we always multiply first, so times 550, divided by 90, and then we get 611 bison. There's actually 611.1 repeating, but we know we can't have 0.1 bison. That'd be like 1 foot of a bison. So it's just 611 bison. Now let's look at what we got before. We got 605 bison. So do these answers match? No, they do not. So you're going to write, no, they do not match. And then we don't need to explain our reasoning because we showed it with the two proportions. All right, now class, the substitute has those individual worksheets for each of you. You're going to do those worksheets. Then any time that's left in class, please use it to work on your social studies timelines or any other missing work. Be great for the sub. Okay, I'm looking forward to see you all tomorrow and have a great day.